In this video help tutorial, we're going to be working on the listing group, and I'm going to give you an example how do you do that. You go into here and it says the listing group, and these are the screens that are used when you're managing a sale, where you're going to set it up and you're going to list it either through an entity like the ones, and we'll go over to show you those, over to the auction screen. These are entities, each one of them an individual record. If you can buy from these, you can sell to them. You would actually create your own, for example, your own business as an entity, and you would say for example, have eBay or Craigslist or one of the other organizations, or you can create one that just says garage sale or whatever, and you could put the information in as your own information. It's whatever you want to do to set up the kind of sale or location and option that you want to provide to the listing. So if I went back over to the listing, over here what I did is I just created a new example record, and it says example auction company, and this is actually my address right here. I could go back over to the listing on the auction side where you're going to buy things and change this, and it would come back over here with that changed information. But typically what you would do is you would save all your listing places where they're at and not change them. The listing number is given to each new one that you provide, and then those items that are listed for that particular entity would show up over here. And every time you would list one, they would be for that entity that you created over on the purchase side. And you're just using them over here. So if I click new record, and once I click the new record, you would come up here, and this drop down would provide all the different entities that are available, and the current one I'm using is this one. If I wanted to change my mind and just put in miscellaneous sales, you would see miscellaneous sales could have been something like, a garage sale that I'm going to do, or I went to somebody's flea market and I was selling the items that were in that particular listing. So what you're going to do over here is you're going to start by the listing date. If it's a listing date where you're going to have the date of the start of a listing where you're actually publishing it, maybe it's to eBay, and you're going to do an eBay, and then you're going to list the end date. You're going to list the end time, because that's important when you're tracking all this information. Then type of listing, that would be something like an open, a bid, an auction, buy it now, buy a bid to buy, or whatever values you want to add. You can click in here and go ahead and edit this so that you can add another kind of a listing. Now, this is not always the case when you're editing these, that they give you something like, if you're in a scroller, they're not going to always give you the option to do that. And that's why the iPad has, in some cases, a different kind of listing that we call a scroller. And in that case, you'll see the header underlined. If you click on the header that is underlined, it will allow you to edit that listing. Listing fees. If you have a listing fee, like for example on eBay, as opposed to Craigslist where there's no listing fees, you would go ahead and you would put in the fees that are going to be accounted for that particular listing. And it may be at the end of the listing where you want to summarize all the cost for that listing, and that would be in there. Then the item selection, basically what we would do is we'd pick from the list of all the items that are out there. There is a individual ID for whoever you bought it from. In this case, it was a master's painting from item ID 13, and that'd be that vendor that you either bought it from. That would be the one you bought it from, and you would go ahead and put this in that field. So I'd pick, say I'm going to pick this one, and as I pick it, it's going to say over here, let's go over here, it'll actually drop in the image you have. It'll drop in all of the information, the price, and the minimum sell price is $430. You're going to have to figure in your fees and other costs, and then put a margin on it, and then put that number in here, because that's what you want to sell it at. So if somebody called you about it, or sent you an email about it, or you had a answer from a website or whatever it might be, that would be what you want to sell it at. You would have a status over here where you can pick one of the statuses. In this case, these are listing statuses, and these are buyer statuses over here. So there's a number of them, and you can actually edit the list if you want to. Okay, the next thing is the items fees. In this particular case, you are assigning fees. For example, you may have an insert fee for putting it into some place where it's on a website, for example, and there's a fee when it's sold. There may be a sales fee that you have to pay the website. There may be a tax that is you owe that particular organization. And then there are any other fees. All of these fees would be calculated up, and then they would be itemized, and it would be summarized over on the actual fee listing over here. The item number in this case is number 5, so you can tell by looking here this is the item that we're speaking about. If I went up to here, this is item number 1. You can see how it changes up here. So as these items get sold, the buyer's record, which is going to be the thing we're going to be doing in the near future, the buyer's record will indicate this item that you listed, and then based on wherever it's located, in this case it's police auction, it would be reflected in the police auction, and you would pay for it in the buyer's screen. So if I go over here and show you, this is the buyer's screen where it'll actually be transacted and sold and what you actually sold it for. So this is the auction that we're looking at. This is the billing date, the shipping date, the quantity, and so forth. We'll go back into this a little bit later, but I want to go back over and finish up the different screens in the listing group. So going back to the listing group, there is a button right here where you can look at the listing portal. We'll go over there real quick where it has a nice big picture of the item, the same transaction information you see in the individual record. You have a listing view you can go to and a list view, 2 different ones that you can look at. You can cycle through the records. If you, for some reason, this was wrongly put in here and you have to get rid of that particular line item for that screen, just go ahead and click the delete and that item would be pulled out. You can start over again in a new record, adding that information. And to get back to the buyer's listing, go over here and click. Now, each time you create a new record here for the listing, it'll pop up a new record that you can add in here. And as you add data between these records, then the summary totals down here at the bottom will change. What they will do is they'll indicate the max, not the max, but the included fees and everything in the listings for items that were sold through the auction as far as the listing and listing cost and the value. Now this is not what you sold it for. This is basically the listing value, any of the fees that you had to do the listing with, and the sum of tax if you had to pay any, and that would affect what you could sell it at. So if you're going from this record over to the buyer's records and you're going to sell it, you have to accommodate your cost and and the fees, which are the combination of both of them. And then that way you'll say, here's what I paid for it, $32.10. The minimum I want to sell it for is $4,000, but you have to indicate here that you also have a sold at price that should include all the fees that are indicated in this record. So in this case, it should be the fee, original cost, plus what you're going to sell it for, and then sold at price. So that's the minimum sell, and this is what you should sell it for with including the fees. Okay, so that's the basic things. Now you have an option if you're listing it somewhere and you want to get a number of photos for these different items that you're selling. This is a scrolling portal so that you have your images in here that you're using to sell whatever items you're selling in this listing for these guys. You'd put the information that's in here for each one of the pictures to indicate what they are and what they're for. And there's one nice thing you can do over here. This is called a data portal. And what the data portal does is if you are using this on a website and you have the website URL, you can actually take and go to the picture where you're selling it, click in the field, and then what happens, it'll drop down, it'll say something to the tune of URL. It'll be the image URL that you're clicking on. So if I clicked on it in the web page, it would give me a way to take that URL or the actual picture and copy it and then paste that URL in here. That way when you say go to the data portal, this would show you the bigger image of it. If you wanted to insert a picture, that would insert a picture of the item. And if you want to go to the URL for the website, and if I click on this, it would go to whatever this URL is and display it whatever it's at. So you would actually say like this is on eBay, and it's your listing, and you want to be able to click on the URL with its own URL from the website, that would put it in there as far as going to it. And then you could also do the same thing for the image and paste it directly in here from the website. And then the data list view is a list view of all the items that you have in that data portal. Now the data portal has several more optional things that you can do. Say for example you had a receipt of some sort for an item that you're putting in, say like you put it in a consignment store, and you wanted to get a image of that item that you listed. You could click here, and of course you could always blow it up if you had to, so you could see it, and that particular thing would be the image of, say, a receipt. And you can do that also because if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, you can go to this video library on your iPad or iPhone and put that image in here by going over here and say replace, in this case because there's already one in there. You could export the item if you want. You could delete that, whatever that is in there, and paste in another image by, when you have an image in there, you can replace it by clicking this, and from photos or signature or file, you can go ahead and put those in here, and that would list them. Now this, what it does, it gives you the ability to manage information that's beyond what you would normally consider in most applications. This gives you the ability to track a number of different kinds of files and so forth. In this particular case, these are no longer found because they were in a previous database for information and you can't find it anymore. So I would just replace it and put something in there that is more pertinent. And in this case, there's no websites in these, so it's not going to really hurt anything either. If I do click in here and I say, for example, go to the website, let's click in this record. It has to be the live record, and go to the website. It's going to open up the browser on Safari. In this particular case, it's saying it's failed because that's an old listing and it's no longer in there. I just say done and it brings me back. That would be how you'd get there. And in the case of go to the data portal, it would go to the data portal, the main data portal, where all the records are listed and all the data portal stuff. This is the individual portal record. So the data portal has its own record set in here. If I go up to the drop down do actions and I go to the first record, you can see here's the Google in a large view. And so if you also had a piece of paper or a form that was in there, you could also read it in here, and also you can go to the big view, and it would largely take all the stuff on the side and put it up there as a next view. So, and you can also cut, copy, and paste it or delete it from here as well on the iPad or iPhone. So let's go back to the, let's have to scroll down here a little bit, get the map, go back. Okay, so now we've looked at photos, we've gone to the data portal, and we've done our listing. And we've looked at the summaries, we've looked at the image, and again on images you can also pop them up so you can view them in a better view. Or say like you wanted to show it to a client, you could have it on your iPad and show it to them to see it in a little larger view. And also, as far as this screen is concerned, keep in mind that you're adding new records here and they will sequence. There's a little number right up there, and what that does is it's telling you that that is the 7th ID record in this group. So everything downstream of this is more like a primary record, like the purchase portal was, and the buyer's portal is the same situation. There are records of different types that we're showing you, like these in the portals, that are tied to this record. So let's try to close all this out. We're going to try to do all this stuff. We're going to go to the go to listing view. So this is the list view of all the items that are currently listed for sale that you're going to list somewhere. So this is not the actual sales screen, but the listing screen. And down here you look at the summary total for all the items that are above here. You have a little picture of them, and if you click this button right here, it takes you into the individual record. It makes it a little faster to do it that way. We're going to be talking about the assist later on. It's another screen that does some kind of unique things. So if we clicked on this, it's going to take us to the record in the portal for this one. And then we can go back from here to the, well, we are in the listing portal. But the listing portal is the sales listing portal, which is this one. So if I click here, you see it's not going to do anything because we're already in it. I can do next to previous or delete that record, whatever I have to do. And if you're looking up here, this is basically the one record for this. And the information that you see here also has a list screen and a list view screen. So let's go look at those. We have the sales listing we just looked at. We have an item portal for the individual item and its graphics that it has for that, because it'll find them for that individual item. And you can do a comment about the different items. And also by the name and number, they know what where they're from and so forth. So let's go back over here. And now we already did the data portal, but I'm just going to pop over there. Interestingly enough, it seems that the data portal and also this are not going to work right now. In the actual one I'm delivering, I've updated this so that the data portal does open. Go to the listing print label. What the listing print label does is it allows us to show you I'm going to have to go to the next one, I guess. Next. This is the different listing labels. If you wanted to use them to put them on a package or whatever you needed them for, this would be what you would see. In this case, they're not listing much more past that. But you could print labels if you had to that are for auction items as to where the auction item is at or going to. Especially if you're going to ship it to an auction, these labels would use whatever you put in there as far as the auction is concerned. As far as in this case, you see where it says drop ship vendor. Well, if you'd filled in all this information right here, then that item would now show in those labels. So if I go back over here and say go to the print labels, voila, you could print this. Now, I didn't put a zip code in there because I don't have one and I don't have a product address, but that would be in there. So if you're going to have, say, 6, 8, 10 items and you want to print them out as for labels, then you would do it in here. And it would print a nice little label for you. Okay, let's go back to auction. Okay, let's recap. We've gone in and we've gone to the listing screen and added an item from the purchase area as far as the entity and added that. We went to the list view for all the items that are listed, the sales listing view portal where the individual items are, the photo portal, the data portal that we've already covered. Go to the listing print label. And now we've completed the listing group within this video. Now, if you have any questions or you need assistance, you can always use the support site by clicking up here in the corner. It'll take you to the the database website for the application where the developer will give you assistance either through chat or you can email the developer for assistance. Thank you.